Oh my gosh, it was so good. Just truly a lesson in yearning. Things got a little squirrely for me. Annoyed at them for not just like being good people. Apparently I just have a tender little heart that can't handle stuff like this. If you love cats, maybe don't read this one or just proceed with caution. I'll say that. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going through my January reading wrap up. I had a very interesting reading month, so let's just get right on into it. In January, I read 10 books and I DNF'd 2. For the books that I finished, I read 5 romances, 2 mysteries, 1 historical fiction, 1 dystopian, and 1 nonfiction. I really was not expecting to hit 10 books this month, but I did somehow. I think let's just go chronologically and I'll start with the first book that I read this year. And that was In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. Oh my gosh, it was so good. This is the 4th and final book in the Sarah Adams When in Rome series. It's an interconnected standalone romance series set in Rome, Kentucky, and each of this family's 4 siblings get a book, and this was Madison's book, Madison and James's book, and wow, it was so good. I don't know if I actually rated any of the other books in the series actual 5 stars. I feel like I rated some like 4.5, but this might be the only 5-star of the series. It was so good. Just truly a lesson in yearning. This, oh my gosh, the yearning in this book was so good. I also feel like it hit the way that it did because of the little bit of a buildup that we got in the other 3 books. So I would say if you're going to read this one, don't start out with this one. Read the series in order of the way that it's listed. We get these tiny little moments between James and Madison in the other books, and I feel like it helps set up their romance a little bit, and it was just incredible. So Madison is from her small town, Rome, Kentucky. She moves to New York to become a chef. She's not loving New York, she's not really thriving in New York, and she wants a reason to come back home. She calls James one night accidentally, and he has been secretly in love with her for a very long time. So he invents this plan that he's going to open a restaurant on his family's farm so that Madison will have a reason to come back home and be with him, and it was just incredible. The yearning was there. I love when the man falls first, and he fell first and fell hard. It was so good. Highly recommend this series. All the other books were great as well. I think When in Rome was probably my second favorite, the very first one in the series. I think the middle 2 are probably tied for me, but loved this book so much. The next book that I read is Apple Turnover Murder by Joanne Fluke. If you've watched any of my book videos in the past, I have probably mentioned this series at some point, and I feel like I just need to give a little disclaimer because I'm gonna try to start doing these wrap-ups every single month and maybe doing like a TBR every single month, and I will probably be referencing this series in all those videos because I like to try to read one book from this series a month, and I just need to give the disclaimer that I love this series, but it is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I fully understand that. And I just want you to go into this book knowing that it is a very cozy mystery. It's not like top level writing, it's not top level plot. Like, you can probably guess who it's gonna be, who the murderer is gonna be, like halfway in. It follows the same pattern every single book, but I just truly love it. It is just so up my alley, and it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. And I just used 2 very interesting sayings right then, but they will always be a 5-star for me just because I get that good cozy feeling in them. And so yes, if you are someone who likes Hallmark movies, if you like books for the vibes rather than like the actual level of writing or plot, you would potentially enjoy this one. I love it. The next book I read was Last Call at the Savoy by Breeza Carlton. I enjoy this book as well. So this book follows our main character, Cinnamon. I could never get over her name being Cinnamon. At a young age, her parents passed away, leaving her and her sister a lot of money. And ever since her parents passed away, she has kind of lost her way in life. She used to be a writer. She doesn't write anymore. Really, all she does is party, and she gets a call from her sister that she needs her in London. So her sister is pregnant with twins and is put on bed rest, and her husband can't come to London yet because of work. And so Cinnamon flies to London to be with her sister. They are staying at the Savoy Hotel in London, and because her sister's situation is so dire, Cinnamon is kind of confined to the hotel, and so she passes her days just in the hotel exploring, and she befriends a bartender at the hotel's bar, and he starts telling her the story of Ada, who was the first female bartender at the Savoy Hotel in London. And it's actually based on a true story, which I didn't realize until the end of the book. Like, Ada was actually a real woman who worked at the Savoy Hotel in London, and the author says in the back, like, her story isn't very well told, and there's still a lot of things like missing from all the knowledge about her life. And it just made the book even cooler to me because I just thought this was purely fictional, and it was a very intriguing book. I felt like it was just a very pleasant read. I gave this 4 stars. Like, I really just enjoyed myself through reading this book. I enjoyed seeing Cinnamon's relationship progress with her sister, and there's a little bit of a love interest that she has. I enjoyed learning more about Ada's story. If you're a historical fiction lover, if you love the art of making a good cocktail, I think you would enjoy this book. This book mentions a cocktail book that I think is actually real, and so I would really love to find that. And yeah, it was a very just easy, nice read. Alright, and then things got a little squirrely for me. The next book that I read was The Favorites by Lane Fargo, and I just really struggled with this book. And what I want to say about this book is that I personally did not enjoy it. It really annoyed me, and it really like made me mad while I was reading it, because this book follows 2 ice dancers, and it follows their relationship throughout a really long extended period of time, and they have a very toxic and messy relationship, and they're constantly like hurting each other. And because of that, I just couldn't enjoy the book because I was so annoyed at them for not just like being good people and like loving each other. I just had a really bad reading experience while I was reading this book. Like, I just couldn't enjoy it because I was so annoyed at the characters. However, this is a very well written book, and even though it wasn't really for me, I do think it could be for you if this sounds interesting to you, because the story is just so well put together. Even when I was having a bad time reading it, I couldn't put it down because I was just so sucked into the story. And so it's hard because it wasn't for me, but I also can step back and be like, this is a really great book even if I didn't love it. It's set up like a documentary, and so you're kind of like flashing back and forth with interviews from other people and then told through Kat's point of view, which is our female main character in this book. And yeah, it was a hard one for me because I was not having fun reading this book, but I could also see where, but I don't even know what to say about it. I wasn't having fun reading this book, but it was a good story, if that makes sense. If you are a big fan of Magnolia Parks and you like that kind of like toxic, messy, back and forth relationship where they're hurting each other but they love each other, I think you would enjoy this. And then a similar situation happened with this book. This is His and Hers by Alice Feeney. I hated this book. Like, this book was awful to me, but again, I can see where it wouldn't be awful to everyone. This book was just way too gruesome for me, and apparently I just have a tender little heart that can't handle stuff like this, because it was like making me upset reading this book because it was so awful. Like, the characters in this book are awful. The things that they do are just horrible things, and it was just like making me like sick to my stomach to read this book again. However, my caveat is it was an objectively well-written thriller, and if you're someone who likes those kind of books, if you're a big Frida McFadden fan, or you like other Alice Feeney books and you can handle that kind or that level of gruesomeness, I don't even know if that's a word, then I'm sure you would enjoy this because it was a very twisty thriller. I had a suspicion about who did it, but I wasn't for sure because she's was great at like pulling you in all different directions, making you think that a different character did it like with each chapter. If you're a true crime junkie and that stuff doesn't bother you, read it, go right ahead. But if you are a little more tender-hearted, if you love cats, maybe don't read this one, or just proceed with caution. I'll say that. I did not like this book, but I can see where other people would, because the thriller aspect was good. It was just way too dark for me. So after that, I picked up The Lodge by Kayla Olson, and I just really enjoyed this book. This is exactly what I needed to get out of that deep dark hole that I was getting in. And then unfortunately, like 2 books later, I read His and Hers and got right back into that deep dark hole, but this at least brought me a little bit of joy in the meantime. This is a contemporary romance book about a writer who is writing the memoir, or she's like ghostwriting the memoir of a former boy band member, and she is put up at this like glamorous ski resort while she's writing the story. The setting is what made this book for me. Oh my gosh, it was just so picturesque. The absolute perfect winter read. Her romance happens with a ski instructor at the lodge, and all the things that they do together are just so fun. He takes her on dates to the ice skating rink and takes her up the ski lift to like see the view over the mountains, and they have hot cocoa and eat soft pretzels, and the vibes were just there. I didn't give this 5 stars because a few aspects of the romance felt very rushed to me. Like, I felt like they would have one interaction with each other and like she was in love. I just felt like things were progressing very, very rapidly. That didn't quite make sense to me, but I didn't really care because I was just there for the vibes, and the vibes were there. And I almost feel like that's why the romance was a little rushed, because she spent so much time describing the atmosphere and like what they were doing that it didn't leave a whole lot of words left to describe the relationship, and I was actually totally fine with that. I would say just go into this book knowing that you want those like cozy wintry vibes rather than you want like some sort of grand epic love story. Alright, the next book I read was Conform by Ariel Sullivan. This is the start of a new dystopian romance series. I've seen a lot of mixed opinions online about this book, and I would say I'm kind of in the middle. This dystopian society is similar to the Matched books, if you ever read that trilogy, basically where you are matched with a mate, and you are matched based on your genetic code, because they're trying to like breed out all of these genetic deformities. It has obviously gone to the extreme, like all dystopian books have. You can either be a elite, which is you're genetically perfect, a minor, which is a minor defect, or you can be a major defect. And they don't go into a ton of what the different defects are. We just know that our girl, her minor defect is that she has heterochromia, which means that she has one blue and one brown eye. And you can be paired up with an elite if you are a minor defect to have kids, where you enter a procreation contract. And our main characters actually entered into a procreation contract with one of the Ilum, which the Ilum is the governing body of the dystopian world. She's like one step even higher than the elite because she has been mated or matched with someone from the government. There is a secret rebellion stirring around and things happen with that. It gave me that nostalgic feeling of being in the early 2010s when all I read was dystopian novels. So that part I enjoyed. I thought the society was interesting. So this is a love triangle, and there was something happening with the love triangle with the other person, like the guy that she's not matched with, that I just couldn't really get into. It was setting her up to be with one part of the love triangle, and I wanted her to be with the other part of the love triangle. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It didn't give me any like strong emotions while I was reading it. It was just like a nice dystopian book. It was something different. I haven't read dystopian in a while. Since this book just recently came out, the next book in the series probably won't come out until at least next year, and so when the time comes around for that book to release, I will decide if I want to read it or not. I'm honestly indifferent on whether I finish the series or not. I'm not just like craving the next book to come out, but I would be intrigued to see which way the relationship goes. If it goes towards the guy that I want her to be with, I think I would continue the series, but if it's very strongly leaning to the other way, which I feel like it is, I probably won't, because one thing that I discovered is that if there's a love triangle and the girl does not end up with who I want to be, it just like ruins the story for me. So we will see if I continue this or not. If you have read this book, please let me know what you thought about it, because I really am in a little bit of two minds about it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I picked up Love Unwritten. This is number 2 in the Lakefront Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. I have had this book since the beginning of last year. I think like over a year I've had this book, and I just never felt like I wanted to pick it up and read it. For some reason, it just was drawing me in after the His and Hers debacle. I think because it was pink, and I knew it was going to be a romance where they end up together at the end. And I remembered liking the first one in this series, and so I just decided to go for it. And I read this so fast. This was exactly what I needed to get out of my His and Hers issue, and I enjoyed it. It is a very thick romance book. It's really long. I think it's like 600 pages, and I do think that it's worth those 600 pages. There are so many things happening with the character themselves and then with the subplots of the book that I think it actually needs to be this long to wrap all of that up. You get to see the characters' relationship progress so deeply. It's definitely not instant because it takes them time to like actually become a couple, but they also become a couple like probably 2/3 of the way in, so you still have a good amount of book left for them to be together, which I always love. I read this one in 2 days, and I was at the bookstore and we had the 3rd one in the series, and so I picked this up and read it in 2 days. I feel the same way about Love Arranged. The other reason why I wanted to read this one immediately after was because this romance was set up in Love Unwritten, and so it was really easy just to go straight into this one. And I do finally feel like I'm out of my like tiny little slump that I was in. I feel really excited about February reading, and I think I have these books to thank because I just needed some good old-fashioned romance, and this gave it to me. And then last book I read this month was my nonfiction book, and that is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I made it a goal to read 2 nonfiction books a month this year. That didn't happen for me in January. I really struggled through this book, and so it literally took me all month to read it. It was honestly just a little boring. I have insomnia. I was diagnosed when I was in high school, and I feel like so much of my life has been revolved around my issues with sleep, and so parts of this book were really interesting to me, and parts of it was really like beneficial for me to read and to understand, but a good amount of it I thought was so boring and unnecessary, and it was just very, very sciencey, like overly so. Like there was so much talk about the sleep patterns and cycles of animals, and I was just like, why do I care about the difference between the way a bat sleeps and a ferret sleeps? Like it never connected back to humans, and like it never really gave a reason as to why it was telling us that. I think it was just because it was part of the scientific process of figuring out how humans sleep. I don't know. I honestly would not recommend this book unless you also have insomnia or you also struggle with a sleep disorder, because if you are just someone who sleeps like normal, you're gonna think this book is so boring. It's just not really beneficial to someone who sleeps well. So, and honestly, I don't even know if it's that beneficial to me who doesn't sleep well. The only reason I would recommend this book is if, again, you have insomnia or you have issues sleeping and you want to learn more about the actual science around sleep, then maybe you would enjoy this, but I'm just warning you right now, there are good amounts of this book that are pretty boring. So sorry. All right, that was all of the books that I read in January. I have a question for you all. For January, I posted a TBR on TikTok, and I was gonna post the same on YouTube, but then I didn't get around to filming it in time, and then I was gonna film my February TBR, but I feel like I'm just gonna be talking about the books twice if I'm reading all the books on my TBR every month. I am going to try to do a wrap up at the end of every single month. So knowing that I'm gonna do that, do you still want to see a TBR at the beginning of each month if most of the books are gonna be the same? I don't really know, because I feel like at least with January, I stuck pretty dang closely to my TBR. I feel like that might just be a little redundant to do both. So let me know what you think. Open to suggestions. Yes, thank you all so much for watching. Oh, I was gonna tell you, I am running a giveaway on my TikTok. I'm going to do it every single month. So if you go to my January reading wrap up video on my TikTok, and you comment which book you want to read the most from the books that I've read that month, I'm going to pick a random person to send that book either in an ebook format or an audiobook format, and I'm giving them an option of following me on Instagram and commenting on that post, but I'm also going to give you all the option if you want to enter that giveaway. You have to still enter it on my TikTok. That's how I'm going to pick the winner. But if you also want to comment on this video and tell me which book you want to read most out of the books that I just talked about, I will count that as an additional entry into the giveaway. I'm hoping it goes over well. If it does, I'll try to start doing more giveaways throughout the month. Like maybe I can do 2 at the end of each month, or even 3 at the end of each month, so that more people can get books. But yeah, if you would like to enter that giveaway, please go to my TikTok and comment on that video, and comment down below if you do and you want a little extra entry for this one as well. But yes, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next video very, very soon. Bye.